wanna be in love like the movies. Oh no, we can't be in love like the movies.
Let's see. You know these are soul cards. These are what you want at Spiritual Soul Center. So here we go. What do you want Soul Center to be in your life and for others? A community, someplace to heal, a safe haven, to strengthen my spirituality, and to help others in any way I can. That's what this person wants it to be. How do you want it to feel? Safe and loving. How will you bless this space? With positive energy and to be present in the moment. Amen. So let's take a moment and be still. And yesterday in our coffee and conversation, one of the things I read from the Wayne Dyer book, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, is this statement. Worry is simply a sign of change. Wow, I thought that is a perspective I have never had about worry. Worry is simply an indicator that things are changing. Isn't that true? Because we're holding on to something in the past. We're worried. We're thinking it should be a certain way in the future. It's simply an indicator, and worry is transitory. So let's breathe in for a minute and know that if I have a concern or an anxiety in this moment about anything, that is simply a call for me to recognize the change in me, in the world, in the universe, in my family, in the situation. It's simply a call to recognize change. So it's not bad, it's not wrong to worry, it's not something we need to banish. It's simply, if we choose this perspective, a call to recognize change. And for that emotion, for that experience, then we can be grateful, aware, and awake. Amen. I think humans have forever wondered, why do bad things happen to good people? You know, in fact, why do bad things happen at all? Horrible things happening. It's like, if there is a God, why doesn't he, she, or it do something about it for now? I mean, come on. Aren't we praying hard enough? You know, like, what do we got to do? What do we got to do to straighten it out? You know what? We want to understand that, don't we? We want to understand why these hard things happen. Big global hard things. Like, I want to know why there's a war in Ukraine. Not the political reason, but really, all those people. And all those guns and all those bombs. Golly. We want to understand it, don't we? We want to know. But what I recognize is that that's not going to happen. Because we want to understand what's happening out here in the physical world, but it's not why we're here. We're not here to understand this stuff. But we want to. We're like, hey, you know, if I could just know this, then I'd be okay. Like, we want to get to the point where we're like, oh, that's why. Oh, yeah, I never thought about that way. Yeah, I get it now. I'm good. Said nobody ever. You know, No, because we're not here to understand it. I've decided. You can agree with me or not. We're not here to understand it. Because this is what's happening out in the physical world. But we're not here to understand what's out in the physical world. We're here to be a soul. Because we are a soul. And we are here to come from that place. And all this out here is just distraction about that. You know, that's not something we're going to understand. That's not what it is. We're here to do the soul work. And the soul work is not just about my soul work. Like, where's my soul? Where's my soul work? It's the soul work. I was going to... It's the collective consciousness. It's like the soul, the universe. It's not just my work. It's the work of the whole. The work of all of it, you see. We're not here just for me to do my thing. It'd be nice, I was thinking, yeah, I have this nice little house, and I got this nice thing, I have a nice relationship, we have a dog and a cat. But, it's not just about that. It's so much bigger. My soul work is so much bigger. It's so much bigger. And this work is really important because look around. We are still treating each other poorly. We are judging each other every day. I have to just project and say that probably has happened to you this week. I know it's happened to me, where you've judged somebody, where you've maybe treated somebody less kindly than you're able to. And if that's still happening and those little things are still happening, the big things, like we don't even have to go there yet. We have this work right in front of us of treating each other better than we have been treating each other. Kindly, with respect. Everybody. Everybody. I'm saying that's important work, and that is soul work. That is soul work. We're not here to understand why bad things happen. We are here to change and raise the vibration of the whole universe through our soul work. It reminded me of the song that was penned by Hal David and arranged by Burt Bacharach and sung by Jackie Buchanan. Some of you who are old enough to remember this know which song I'm talking about. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little of. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone. Remember that? Yes. It was written in 1965, right smack dab in the middle of the Vietnam War. There's only one thing lacking, and that's love. And where does that love come from? I say that we are the portal. Our mind and our body is the portal for that. For our soul to do its work. For our soul to raise the consciousness. Because there's only one thing lacking. And it's not that it's lacking. It's just lacking in demonstration. There's plenty of love. But we're the portals for that. And so we have to let it out. We have to let it through. That's what I think. I was remembering this from last week. I have to tell you again, this quote from Neil Donald Walsh from my day calendar says, "Your soul doesn't care what you do for a living, and when your life is over, neither will you. Your soul cares only about what you are being while you are doing what you are doing." All right? The soul is not interested in accolades or awards or job titles. And Renee just got her new business cards from her new company, and she has a list of letters after her name that are this long. I was like, dang, I don't have those. But it's what you're being while you're doing what you're doing. That's the soul work. That's the soul work. This life is precious. Every breath is precious. The hard breaths and the easy breaths. There is no understanding why. If we are waiting to understand why, or waiting for some God somewhere on a throne with gold hair, a big white robe, and a big G on it to do something about it, if he hasn't been convinced by now, it's not happening, is what I think. It's not happening. But what I'm saying is, I'm going to tell you the reason why I think we're here. And it's a pretty simple one. You're here because you're not done yet. Your soul has decided you're not done. That's it. That's why you're here. Because you're here to do soul work. Not because you haven't fed enough homeless yet, or not because you haven't built the bridge, or not because you haven't painted the amazing painting, or not because you have... That is irrelevant. You're not done yet. You're not done being the portal for love. You're not done with your soul work. And that's why you're here. So if anybody asks you, now you can tell them. I'm not done yet. And what I think our work of not being done yet is recognizing, acknowledging, and living our oneness. You know, it's real easy, especially on Sunday morning right here, to say, oh yeah, we're all one. You know, we're all one. You know, do you live it? Do I live it? Do you live as if we are not separate from each other? I say most of the time not. I mean, even just getting in our car and leaving, we're all like separate, you know. But I think this is the big thing. This is the big thing, is recognizing and acknowledging our oneness. But it's hard. We have to be able to see with the eyes of our soul and not these eyes. These eyes just observe whatever's happening out here. The eyes of the soul are something different. There's something different. And if we are to see the whole vibration of life in the universe as one, we have to see through the eyes of the soul. And what I think has to happen is that that when we look out here, we need to decide not to fight against anything. Not anything. You think, but what about this wrong and what about that wrong? You know what? If we are fighting against anything, we are fighting against ourselves. Because we are not separate from anything. You know, Martin Luther King Jr. knew that with his whole idea of nonviolence. He knew that fighting wasn't going to do a thing. Right? Mahatma Gandhi knew the same thing. He said things like, there is no way to peace. Peace is the way. You know, there's no way we get there by fighting and finagling and convincing. That's not how it works. Peace is the way we get there. By demonstrating peace. That's seeing with the eyes of the soul. Does that make sense to you? It makes sense to me. But we need to stop seeing things in duality. Because that's what we do. We see things as good and bad, left and right, up and down, now and later, those who get it, those who don't get it, right? We label all these things, and then we wonder, and then we say, well, we're all one. Well, we may believe it intellectually, but we don't demonstrate it. Because we separate each other. We separate each other out. You know. Yeah, this idea of duality. And instead of there being this idea of duality, we might just look at another soul and say, oh, that's what that soul looks like. Oh, well, that's what that soul looks like over there. That one looks really mad, but that's what that soul looks like right now. And not have any judgment about it. And say, well, it's kind of like, you know, I've shared before the visualization of the Hindu god Indra, I-N-D-R-A, who cast his net out of over all the earth, and at each intersection on that net was a jewel, and each one of those jewels was me and you. And if one jewel was snipped out of that net, what happens to it? It totally unravels. There's a big hole in the universe. You know? That's oneness. That's a way to think about oneness. So I was doing that, and I journal not every day, but many days. This is where my Sunday lessons usually start, and it did. On June 6th. June 6th was D-Day, right? D-Day. And also my 29th anniversary of my cancer diagnosis. So 29 years later, here I am. And here's the two questions that I wrote down here. What does it mean to live your part of the mystery? like, oh, that's a good question, Paula. You could go with that. And the second question, what about living from the foundational belief that there is only one? That I reject this idea of duality. That was what I started off with. And then, this is the way my life works. Then I open up to the next verse of the Tao Te Ching in the book I'm reading since the beginning of the year, which I am now on page 48, the 10th verse. And here's the title of Wayne Dyer's essay for this section. Living Oneness. I'm like, okay, universe, I get the message. The message is oneness. The message is about oneness. That's what it's going to be. Here's a couple things that Wayne Dyer says. This 10th verse promotes a way of living that is guided by the power of embracing the one, the oneness that we are. When the illusion of duality appears more powerful, because it does. It certainly looks like us and them out here. It does. It's a powerful thing. My friend Maggie would call it seductive even. But here's the thing. We can personally live the Tao by suspending our belief in opposites and reactivate our awareness of its unity. That is, we can surrender our ego and be in this world but not of it. All right? Embrace oneness by seeing yourself in everyone you encounter. I was thinking of that guy begging on the street. He didn't make it to my car, but I was ready to give him some money, and then the light turned green. And I thought, should have I just stopped anyway? And then the guy behind me would have blew the horn. I was way out of it. How about my reflection in that person? Rather than having judgmental thoughts about those whom you regard as separate or different, view others as an extension of yourself. Right? Indra's net. No separation, only oneness. In situations where you're expected to hate an assumed enemy, stop yourself from these judgments and walk an imaginary mile or two in their shoes. That's a good strategy. That's a real good strategy. Don't you think? Yeah. He's talking about this, not just saying we are one, or we are one when you're, it's nice to be in a place of like-mindedness. And I thought of this too. Remember Cheers? Where everybody knows your name. And they're all glad you came. It's easy to be in oneness there because everybody knows your name and they're happy to see you. But that's not how the world is all the time. No, not everybody's like this with open arms. But this calls us to do that, exactly that. It's so strong that we have this competition, but all the parts are essential. It reminded me of looking under the hood of a car. It's like, what are you going to say? That hose there, not so very important. This motor, that's the thing. Or, how'd you like to be an air filter or an oil filter? Taking all the contaminants out. But your car's not going to run without it. Rainstorm coming down, windshield wiper saying, nope, not working today. What? I want to be a headlight. I don't want to be a brake light. I want to be in the back. It's all important. That's oneness. That's a way to think about oneness. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Maybe I'm just the bolt that holds the tire on, but man, if I'm not there, you're in trouble. Right? It's like we don't have to judge each other for whatever we see, just to know that that soul is here and it's still here because it's not done. Just like you, just like me. We're just not done yet. We're just not done yet. So, what do we do? What are some tools? Right? What do we do here? Dyer says, practice seeing oneness where before you saw two-ness. Practice doing that. Practice seeing one. And I say, start with the easy stuff. We don't give our kids the really hard stuff first. We say, hey, take a step at a time. So I say, practice feeling and seeing oneness with people you love already. Recognize that that's what's happening. With your children, with your friends, with your significant other, with the people that love you in situations where you're joyful. Like practice recognizing that this is what oneness feels like. You know, then you start to feel that. You're like, oh, yeah, this is oneness. This is how it feels. And then in meditation, when you're praying and meditating, practice feeling oneness with the divine. Like just practice feeling what it feels like to be a soul, not separated from the universe that said, hey, we need you. That's why you're here, to do this soul work that you're doing. You know? And practice that. Practice like contemplate it once in a while. When you are in nature, you get, you know, many of us, we get this smile anyway. We see a flower, we feel the breeze, the sunshine. We're already smelling. Put it in your mind and in your heart that this is what oneness feels like. Label that. Label that. Label that oneness. So that when you run across those people who are different than you, who think different than you, who you'd like to judge, because after all, what they are doing is wrong and you've got it right, then practice that oneness that you know how to feel because you've been practicing it in other places. You see, we don't have to start with our worst enemy. That's the goal, is to get there. But we can practice it already with where it's easier. Yeah? We can practice it where it's easier. I think so. I think that's the way to do it. And then we can start believing it. So because I was thinking of what the world needs now is love, and because I was thinking of the Vietnam War, and because I was thinking of this idea of oneness, I remember this song by Joni Mitchell. And the name of the song is Woodstock. And it was done by Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, and it was kind of ramped up as a rock and roll song, kind of like Perry stuff. Real rock and roll vibe. But Joni did an acoustic, or not acoustic, she played the piano in 1970, and she sang this song. She wasn't able to go to Woodstock because she had a TV thing going on, and they were afraid they wouldn't be able to get her in and get her out in time, and she talks about that in this YouTube video. And then she sings this rendition of this song that just hit my heart when I thought of all these things, especially this idea of oneness. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to listen to her song for meditation. All right. So take a deep breath in and out, and let's listen to Joni Mitchell.
By the time we got to Woodstock, we were 500,000 strong, and everywhere there was song and a celebration. And I dreamed I saw the bombers riding shotgun in the sky. They were turning into butterflies of our nation. We are stardust, billion-year-old carbon. We are golden, caught in the devil's bargain, and we got to get ourselves back to the garden.
We are stardust. We are golden. And we've got to get ourselves back to the garden, back to that place. Amen.
Yes, we can all be together. Yes, we can all be as one. Yes, we can all be together. Yes, we can all be as one.